Welcome back. On this week's episode of Bone Apple Tea, we sit down with... Sorry, it just makes me laugh saying his name sometimes. Jihad Boura, my father.
Yes.
The one and only.
I was about to fill it in like, your dad!
Yeah, my dad. Yeah, so my dad, he's an interesting guy. He's been through a lot of shit. He's an immigrant. And he's actually also an electrical engineer. He's got a PhD in computer engineering.
Really brilliant person.
So yeah, I mean, he reads a lot. He's a smart guy. And he's been around, he's been around the block. He's been through some shit. So we talk about a bunch of stuff. We talk about like 5G. We kind of talked about 5G. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, we talked about like 5G, him his name, because like Jihad kind of has like a bad rep here in the United States as far as just like what people think of when they hear that term. So we talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about him being in Lebanon and like what it was like to like be there, come to America. And we talk a lot about Lebanon in general, actually.
Yeah. Like the socio-economic, like the, I guess, political-economic kind of like situation.
And like landscape too, like if you go to Lebanon, like what you can expect when you go there. And
yeah, geographically. I mean, it's very geographically diverse. There's a whole bunch of things you can see. It's crazy because there's like really high elevation areas, but also goes down into beaches and it's a great place. But so for those of you who don't know about Lebanon, I mean, it's a small country, so actually a lot of people don't.
A lot of people probably don't. And the cool part is like, a lot of people that are kind of like your father are not good storytellers, like that are like really smart and have PhDs and are great engineers. But your dad is, you see where you get it from. He's very charismatic and fun to listen to. So you'll see that shine in this episode.
It's my pops. Enjoy.
Like Sirius XM is always calling me like, change your subscription. You can come on in and get it. I'm like,
well, the thing now with the internet and 4G services, you buy something like Spotify for $10 and you have access to all the music in the world. And if you don't want to do that, you can get it through other means.
Oh my God. Yeah. But 4G has just been awful lately. And
don't get me started.
I don't even. Yeah, but okay, but why though? Why is it so bad? You said you were talking about this the other day.
You know why it's bad?
Well,
he's got the key.
It's simple. They're trying to squeeze the last dime out of the infrastructure that exists. So when they do their cell planning as to how many subscribers inside the same cell, the more people you squeeze, the more money you make, the less service quality you get.
Yeah,
and that's the bottom line.
Bandwidth.
Oh,
yeah.
So maybe it makes sense to get off of Verizon and get onto a smaller company like a T-Mobile or something like that. Although they just bought Sprint, so I guess it's kind of like now the same problem.
I have the same. I think you and your luck, I have the same problem in Northborough with T-Mobile.
But the thing is, like, they just also, like, all those smaller companies just use the towers for the bigger companies. Like, they like, it's cheaper, but they're just renting the tower usage from the other companies. Like a lot of those are owned by T-Mobile or owned by Verizon. It's like just a discount service.
Yeah, the problem is they're having a bunch of business people make decisions on these things and the technology folks are away from the picture, so end up sabotaging the network without realizing what they're doing. Honestly.
But and they everybody's talking about 5G, but it's like not even implemented yet physically.
Yeah, there's no 5G.
There is no 5G?
No.
So it's a lie? When my phone says 5G on it, it's just fake?
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's probably there
is some 5G, but not really 5G.
Oh, wow.
But anyhow.
Do you know, like, is there like an expected turnaround time on that? Or is it there's just so much resistance from people that you don't think
the problem is the full promise of 5G will take years to happen because just the way it is, you need so much upgrade in infrastructure equipment.
I feel like they have to
the contents too. I mean, it's complicated, but it'll the full promise of 5G. It will take a few years, but you'll get 5G connectivity to the data network. Probably in the next whatever year or so.
Wow. I mean, they kind of have to put in all the devices, even though they started maybe 2 years ago putting 5G and stuff, even though you can't use it. Yeah. Because like if you have a phone that's 2 years old and then everything comes in, it's like you want to be able to use it. Like they kind of have to. Yeah.
The problem we had in Massachusetts, the 5G spectrum was interfering with the spectrum that they use at airports.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Plane is trying to land, and guess what? Uncle Sam comes in on the line and screwing things up for you.
Holy crap. I didn't know that was actually a thing. I didn't know you could interfere like that.
Oh, yeah. It was like a big safety thing. So they delayed the deployment of 5G, in Boston around that area, specifically for that reason.
Wow. So is that like, I guess I guess you're the 5G guy right now, but like, is that something that they're going to have to like really consider if it's like a serious issue with planes, right?
Well,
like they're going to have to really figure that out.
I mean, it's a solvable issue. You're deploying equipment for the first time. You're bound to find hiccups, and guess what? They found a hiccup.
And like people think it's
good thing they found it before they said, there you go. There's your network. See what you can do.
And like everybody thinks that, it's going to give them cancer. So, I feel like there's like a public.
Yeah. What do you say to that? Like, as like, cause there's like people that'll be like, oh, 5G, it's like rotting our brains and all this kind of stuff.
You have to go to the science right now. It's too early to tell. You can't tell. There isn't enough scientific evidence about these things. Of course, with the technology like Bluetooth and you have your headphones on, your phone is not next to your brain all the time when you use it.
Right.
I think that certainly alleviate a lot of these concerns. The bottom line is you don't have any scientific evidence that will actually happen, so people will get paranoid.
Yeah, I think because it's non-ionizing radiation. Not that that's like the only thing, but it's like that's the stuff that gives you illnesses is ionizing radiation. It's not.
You got to wait for the science.
Yeah, we don't have the data. I mean, we're not going to have it for like 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah, wow. So
50 years ago, people on TV used to, smoke on TV. Like it's like a trendy thing. Actually, in old Arabic movie, the doctor would be coming out of the operation room smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. I saw like ads that...
That's kind of a problem, dog. Out of the operation room.
I saw ads of like doctors like prescribing cigarettes for... Like they used to prescribe it if you have a headache, like go smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
That's kind of, dude, a wild world we used to live in, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Jeez.
Back in the day. It was trendy.
I feel like we have to introduce like
this is my dad.
Yeah, Jihad Boura.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we like, because as we don't know anything about him if you're a listener, obviously.
Okay,
and,
also, so I was talking, this is random, but I was like, oh, I like the name Jihad. Like I would probably name one of my kids Jihad. And obviously, everybody's like, oh, you're going to name your kid Jihad.
Yeah. It's what? It's not exactly the most popular name in America.
In America.
Because Americans have this like terrible association to like jihadism or whatever that even means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not saying that's how I feel, but I'm saying like, if I'm just thinking about going to like a white middle school and they're going to be like, jihad, like terrorist pretty much. You know what I mean? Sure. Which is terrible. Yeah. But like, that's definitely like, have you ever received scrutiny for that or like any sort of Is this on? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like any sort of like judgment?
Not scrutiny, judgment. Yeah, I mean awkward looks, but and then I'll give you an example. I was working for a company called Altera later on, got picked up by Intel. They're big on technology and whatnot. I was working as a technical trainer in the field. So I would go and pitch those very high-end technologies for people like, General Dynamics and all these other companies designing weapons for the military, right? There's some serious stuff. Anyhow, so one day I go, I think Honeywell, the company, and, they're in the middle of Alabama somewhere, and they have a site, 8,000 people, and they design test equipment for nuclear weapons. And here I walk in, blah, blah, blah. I go into the class. I probably have maybe, 50, 60 people in the class. And I write my name on the whiteboard, introduce myself. And I turn around and literally I can see 50 people. Their jaws were dropped to the table. They're like, what the?
Who brought this guy in here?
So, and then I started talking and within 15 minutes, I got their attention.
Mm.
And then we finish, and then we go into the cafeteria, and this is like one of those cafeterias like in a Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, just beautiful facility, like large. This is, a military installation, very impressive. Everything looks like grand and so on. And I sit on this table with like all these 50 people pretty much, and I'm in the center of the table. And now everybody wants to pick my brain.
Yeah.
It's like, how'd you come up with that? Where did that name come from and so on? And I explained to them, the meaning of the word and whatnot. Jihad is supposed to be anytime you struggle to improve yourself in any way. If you study, that's a form of jihad. If you work, that's a form of jihad. If you give charity, that's a form of jihad. If you come to kill my family and I kill you in the process, that's a form of jihad.
Yeah.
Okay. So when people talk about, or at least, the ignorant press, when they talk about, jihad,
Right.
that's the part they most highlight.
Okay.
So I don't blame the general public for misunderstanding what that is.
Right. Just because you're fed like misinformation through news. And
Yeah, but I
stuff.
always say there's two sides to anything. And if one side remains quiet about, defending their views on something, and the other side wins, well, shame on me for letting these guys present what they have, and I stay quiet about what I have.
Right.
So you always have to be proactive, cognitive with these things. But anyhow, I've had many occasions where, people would come up to me and say, must be very difficult for you to do what you do and, be in high tech and so on. And, people judge you because of your name. And my consistent answer is always, it's an opportunity to educate.
Yeah.
It does not bother me or intimidate me or make me sad. No, it's an opportunity to educate. And if you have that outlook on anything, you can't lose.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
yeah. That is the best mentality in the world right
Plus,
there.
like, I feel like a lot of, I'm thinking like engineers, like a lot of them are like Indian or Arab anyways. So I'm like, okay. I work with a bunch of,
Yeah. Chinese also, there's a significant number. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I first started working in this business almost 30 years ago, actually, the picture was different then. Yeah.
like it was
It was a lot of white people.
Right.
They were interested in engineering normally. And I feel like technology at the time, because it was a time of like real discovery and innovation. Now people take things for granted. Like the internet, if it's going slow, you go crazy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The first internet connection I had was 1200 kilobit per second. I don't know. That's 120,000 bits per second. And today we can do 100 million bits per second. Just do the math, 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
You take your PCs for granted, your laptop, blah, blah. Your phone has more computing power than the original shuttle that,
went to the moon. Yeah.
that went to the moon, the original rocket that went to the moon.
Yeah, it's kinda scary.
Literally, it's like 1,000 times better.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts to think about. We
Okay.
just walk around with it all the time.
So today, your phone runs at whatever 2 gigahertz or 2.5 gigahertz in terms of speed. My first PC ran at 4.75 megahertz.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
And had a back like the size, like,
So- Yeah, so back in those days when engineers needed to create something, they really had, limited technologies to work with to make things happen. But the fundamentals are all the same. Meaning, they improve technology. We improve technology over time by shrinking things to make a lot more things fit in the same area, which reduces power, which allows people to put it in tiny little devices and like create these great things. It's a wonderful thing what happened in the past, since 1947 actually, but the past 30 years. Think about what happened.
Yeah.
The PC revolution, the internet, the cellular phone, And then all the other applications that came off of it, the music industry and the video industry and
Apple Watches.
and exactly the smart devices
Yeah.
were a huge future in those technologies. And in the next 20 years, you're going to look back at this era and laugh, because we're going to be at a whole different level with AI and 5G or 5G plus. What comes after that? It's going to open a lot of applications to make people's life a lot easier, I think.
Yeah. I feel like the
Exciting.
really easy example that I think of is like when the iPod Nano or the iPod first came out. It was like 1,000 songs in the palm of your hand.
Yep.
And then it was a big billboard.
Amazing.
And then there was a billboard that was, made maybe even like 3 years ago. And it was like every song in the world on your wrist.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
it is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like too, it's like different types of people are like becoming engineers now. Like in the past, you have to like sit in the library and dig through books for hours if you wanted to learn that stuff. And now just because you can look it up on Google, it's like,
access to information.
It's not just like the super nerds who are like, I'm going to go be an engineer. It's like, a bunch of people are like, oh, engineers make money, so I'm going to become an engineer.
Yeah, and you can leverage
have to-
technology to do.
Yeah, you don't have
the
to go
hard stuff.
through all the like bullshit that you would have had to go through like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is also something I'd love to talk about, which is that like, you weren't born in the United States.
No.
And you came here from Lebanon.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if there's any like how was that? Like coming from.
Well, let me explain. So I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and around the age of 9, we had the civil war start in Lebanon and whatnot, and kind of had it tough a little bit in some ways and not so tough in some other ways. But anyhow, ever since I was a kid, we grew up watching American TV. I would watch first and foremost the cartoons. The language is all English, and at the same time, you had the translation in Arabic down at the bottom of the screen, the captions. So I would read the translation, listen to the English, and literally by the time I was 15, I was fluent in English.
Wow.
I couldn't read it, I couldn't write it, but I could speak it and I could understand it fluently.
Wow.
So
Okay.
anyhow, finished high school. This guy, my dad was, lower
Pretty
middle
crazy, by the way.
class. Huh?
Because like I feel like I try to do that with TV now, and like I just can't do it. If I'm reading subtitles and I'm like listening, I'm like, I don't know how the hell you.
Yeah,
maybe the
I
window's
just
passed. But
so couldn't really go to college.
Mm.
And if I wanted to go to college, it would have been like one of the local public schools, and not very good.
Mm.
But anyhow, got a scholarship, came to America. When I landed in America, I already spoke fluent English. And I was actually translating to the rest of the group that I was with to the resident assistant, because the RA would, but I couldn't read or write.
yeah,
So
how many
I-
kids came over with you, by the way?
250 on the same plane,
250.
baby.
Wait a minute. Did you say 250?
250
It's
people.
like one of the last flights from. Was it a direct
Oh my
flight
God.
or?
It was the first and last flight directly from Beirut to Boston, because after that, someone hijacked the TWA in through the pilot off the window, and
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
they suspended the operation out of that airport. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Mm.
Wow. Also, was it like a super bus? Like how big is this plane?
This was
250 people?
a Boeing 747
Yeah.
that the Middle East Airlines had purchased 4 from British Airways, and it wasn't actually refurbished with the Middle East Airlines like logos and signs yet. It was all white plane.
Mm.
Never been on a plane in my life. I go into the plane and I'm like, wow, this is like 2 football fields.
Yeah.
And we're going to fly in this thing. There was no barriers between different classes. It was all like one flat
Yeah.
plane. It was like an incredible sight.
Wow.
And 250 kids, we flew and we landed in Boston. It was a freezing day. And my first impression of Boston, I grew up in the city of Beirut, which is, weather is always nice.
Yeah.
And my first impression, oh my God, they sent us to a big freezer. Because I landed in the airport and I picked up my luggage, and then I walk outdoor, and we were like in the middle of a, January 1985, in the middle of a storm. And literally the snow that you see, it was like, I don't know, probably about like 5 feet high, and it was freezing. I'm like, what the hell
like,
did we do?
Why am I here? You know, like that's crazy.
But it was an incredible journey, and just an out of this world experience. The first 2 weeks were very, very difficult. I was going to pack my bags and go back home because I missed my mom, first and foremost. I was only 18. But anyhow, so that was that. And we studied English for the first 2 semesters, the spring and the summer, and we started college in the fall.
Oh, wow.
The rest was history.
Oh, so you had a semester just English?
Yeah,
What
the
was
first
it, the
semester, and then
TOEFL
we did
or-
a summer session.
You guys had to take an exam or something?
I took the Michigan exam, and I scored 64 out of 100, and I got placed in advanced English, and I couldn't read or write, but my listening comprehension was fantastic. I mean, obviously I could read some because I took the test, but listening comprehension, I scored 100%. So then at the end of the semester, took the exam again, and I scored 98 out of 100, and they placed me in the last class. And then we took the TOEFL because as a foreigner, you have to take that. And then we started school, and I almost didn't go to BU, actually.
Really?
I almost went because I got accepted into University of Southern California.
Mm.
And if I had done that, I wouldn't have met your mom. You wouldn't have been born.
Well, what if I was just born in California somehow? That would have been sweet, man.
You wouldn't be Adam. You would be somebody else.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So overall, it's been an amazing experience. America is a very special place. The people in America are very special people.
Mm.
And I really believe it's the promised land. Out of all the countries I've been in, I've been everywhere around the world. All of Europe, some of South America, Central America, the Middle East for sure. Even, USSR and.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you really been everywhere. Been to India too?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
It's been a
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That's an
You've really traveled the whole world.
interesting culture to
Yeah.
go visit.
Yeah.
But we have this country is blessed. There's a lot of good people. And we also have a lot of weird people.
Yeah, of course.
But I always say it takes all kinds. If it wasn't for the weird people, you don't know that the good people are the good people. You need
Yeah,
to,
it's a really good point.
You need to see the ugly before you can appreciate the good.
Yeah.
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 And America is a country that learns from its mistakes, just not afraid of anything. They're willing to talk about anything. And it doesn't matter what the conversation is. At the end of the conversation, they'll get to the right conclusion and make a decision to move forward, and life goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, how was Lebanon when you left? Like when you had first left?
In 1985, we still have the Civil War. The country was broken up between East and West. You have Christians on one side and Muslims and everybody else on the other side. The fight, I don't think ever was religious, but it's about people with different focus.
Mm.
We had the Palestinians were a big, part of the equations, and the Syrians. Don't get me started on that. That's a big mess. But I'll say this. Even in the middle of the Civil War, the economy was doing great because there was a lot of money being dumped into the country. And everybody in Lebanon on both sides, once they established the demarcation line between what's yours and what's mine, they never really fought.
Yeah.
Okay. But we didn't have like real services. We didn't have power, for example, when I was growing up for 6-7 years. It didn't bother us. People get accustomed to this stuff.
Yeah, but that was the
Right.
thing. I mean, even like now, like you go back. Well, I mean, now is a bad example, but even when we were growing up, like it's still shut off for a few hours every now
Yeah,
and
I
then.
know. Well, it's
You get
corruption.
generators.
It's corruption.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like I feel like I still meet people that are like, "What's Lebanon?" I'm like, "You don't know what Lebanon is?" I guess it's just like
Yeah, the
or
only
haven't
reason
met Lebanese people, but there's so many Lebanese people. Like I feel like everybody knows at least
We
one.
have
Yeah.
the Lebanese people that live in Lebanon and are about 4 million people, and the Lebanese people that live abroad are about 18 million.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
There's 9 million Lebanese people in Brazil. There's 3 million Lebanese people in North America. There's 2 million in Europe. I mean, they're all over the place, and they're in general they're successful communities.
Yeah.
They're it's in their Phoenician blood.
Yeah. The only it was funny when I met him in college.
Yeah.
The funny part about it is when he said he was Lebanese, I was like, holy shit, the only other Lebanese person I ever met, because the only other Lebanese person I'd met was an English teacher in high school, middle
No
and high
kidding.
school.
Really?
And it was the one, and like she was super cool, and we were always like, good. I mean, I was a kind of a wreck in class. I was always trying to be class clown, but I remember she was so good about it. And she was always one of my favorite teachers, and shout out Mr. Knott. And so when I met Adam, it was like, what? Another Lebanese person? And I was like, it had been the like number 2,
Yeah.
And it was funny. Like, just like it is. I mean, it kind of makes sense though, because it's so small. I mean, Lebanon feels like it's 2 Rhode Islands put next to each other.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's exactly that actually.
Is it
Rhode
really? I was
Island
just
is
kinda
half
making
the
a joke.
size of Lebanon. Yeah.
Wow. So,
Lebanon is 4,000 square miles.
Wow.
It's pretty small. I mean, a lot of the food in like the Middle East and like the Mediterranean was like basically came out of like the Lebanon area.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's why I want to go back. Honestly, like the main reason is because I want to eat the food.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been craving. There's no spots around here, by the way. There's no like.
There is zero Mediterranean food around here.
It's super annoying.
Actually.
I'm like, every time I get a craving for it, I can't have it.
It's good food. It's making its way to mainstream diet in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely starting to
Delectable
see
food.
like you're hearing the word shawarma being tossed around here and there.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, like it's funny because like even in Mexico, they do like the El Pastor,
Yeah.
which is literally like shawarma, but it's pork. It's the exact same thing though. It's literally, I think they got it from the Lebanese people.
The
They were
closest to shawarma is the gyro stuff, the Greek.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's also like it literally is.
And that tastes really good, by the way.
Yeah,
It's not the same.
It is, but
I
it's
had really
different.
good
It's just
shawarma
different.
once with you guys after I went to the mosque that one time.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. We took him to WIC once.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yep.
You guys should make a trip to Lebanon one day.
yeah.
I'd love
Bring
to,
him
man.
down.
We
Yeah.
gotta go. I feel like
You'll have the
even,
time of your life.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
now I don't know like how many people are out and stuff, but it's like it's not in the best spot. But if you have money, it's fine. So
Okay.
like we have American
Yeah.
dollars. Like
Not a lot of money, but if you have American dollars, you can have a good
Yeah.
life in Lebanon.
What's the conversion?
that's the
right
thing
now?
is like if you literally have American dollars, it's like
Well,
it's
it
not a big deal.
depends. The official conversion rate is 1,500 lira per dollar, and the unofficial conversion rate, which is the black market, is 30,000 lira per dollar.
Wow.
And it used to be
You knew that
Yeah,
number a
it's
little too fast.
15
You knew that
yeah.
number a little too
fake inflation.
Wow.
It'll come down though.
1,500
interesting.
is like what was standard and was pegged at basically forever. Like that's like what I know it as. That's so, and it's weird seeing it.
Well,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess like
man.
what does that buy you over in Lebanon? Like 1,500 lira? Is that what you said?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Right
Okay.
now, like nothing. But
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Also might-
A revolution happened in Lebanon in 2009, and people panicked and went to the banks and started taking all their cash out. And that led to a shortage of the dollar, foreign currency.
yeah,
And when that happens, and 90% of the things that you consume in the country are actually imported, you need dollars. So the merchants, they go to the black market. They get dollars to buy stuff to import into the country to sell to their customers. And that results in higher cost of goods. And that results in inflation. And that's why,
yeah. I don't know how they're gonna. Well, they just have elections recently. Actually,
yes, they have. last week.
I saw a bunch of. Were you telling me that they were literally just opening the box and?
Yeah, that was in one location, but they dismissed that location altogether.
Really?
The
Wait,
judge
so what were they doing?
in one of the places where people voted. The people that are supposed to count the votes, they were literally replacing some of the votes with the envelopes, and they got caught on camera. Somebody had and they sent it out on social
Wow.
media. Yeah,
Whoops.
that's right, baby. Thank God for technology.
Yeah.
So anyhow, they
This is
got
funny.
caught with their hand in the cookie jar, as they say.
Yeah.
So they canceled that whole, and
Oh,
these
interesting.
people will probably get prosecuted by the law. So
Yeah, well, at least they got caught. Holy crap.
it was so funny to actually. It's
Like,
funny and
see the
sad at the
video?
same time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, these people were going about their business as if it's like nothing. They were literally opening the envelopes, taking the paper out, putting a different paper in, sealing the envelope, and putting it back in the box.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very
funny.
cool.
And just it's pretty sweet. It's just
was.
like thinking that they weren't going to get caught too. That's the crazy part. They just thought there was no cameras around.
Well, someone decided to, turn the camera on, and they thought to themselves, "Hey, this would be a good
Yeah,
thing
it's
to put on
ridiculous.
social media."
Yeah, dude, no kidding. That's insane. So definitely a little bit of corruption.
it is.
Well, the thing is though, is that because every time that Adam has gone and is like, he'll like send me snaps and
Yeah.
like, pictures and videos and stuff. It looks gorgeous.
It is.
And I really like the like I know we talk about this a few times on the show, but how like hookah bars here are very much like dark,
Yeah.
like club type stuff. But you go over there and it's like
It's
you're on,
different.
you're on the beach or a coffee shop or a
So the thing to keep in mind, look at the geographic location of Lebanon. It's at the intersection of 3 continents.
Mm.
You have Asia, Europe, and Africa. In all 3, they kind of intersect in the Levant area, which is Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine. So all these continents are constantly squeezing,
Mm.
and they squeezed over time. That's why Lebanon has a lot of elevation in its topography. So, and one day we'll probably get swallowed, by the whole thing. But anyhow, let's not worry about that.
It'll
for
just
now.
go under. Kind of
Yeah,
like, is that
I mean,
like
who
you have
knows?
like San Andreas Fault sort of?
Yeah, I mean, Lebanon
ideas.
historically has been, not Lebanon, all the coastal cities have been Beirut completely wiped out 6 times throughout history because of strong earthquakes. It happens every 700 years.
Is that why the Rosh is a thing? As it used to be.
I don't know if that's the result of that, actually.
Hmm.
But there is a fault 6 miles off of the shore of Lebanon, and it moves every 700 years, and it's starting to move, by the way. But
Oh,
Shit.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
And the last one was 699
there
years
you
ago.
well, time to buy beachfront properties at 1,000-meter elevation because the water is going to reach all the way to 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so the beauty about the landscape in Lebanon is that you have the coast, and then within 20 minutes you start going up to the elevation, and it goes as high as 10,000 feet.
Wow.
And there's mountains that stretch all the way from the north to the south of the country, and you have fertile land in the where all the agriculture is in the in between the 2 series of mountains that are running in parallel from the north to the south. In the middle, you have the fertile land, the Bekaa Valley. Diversity of the landscape in Lebanon is amazing. It pretty much looks like the south part of Europe, like southern Italy or Spain.
Yeah, actually,
Mm.
it does.
And
pretty
it's gorgeous, as a country. It's a diamond in the rough relative to the rest of the Middle East. I mean,
Mm.
it's very green. We have there's a lot of rivers, a lot of water.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
get a lot of snow.
Really?
So,
So you guys have all seasons over there
Up
too?
north.
yeah, we do.
I do want to check it out. We should go up there next time. I've
Yeah,
never
so-
been up there like super.
Yeah,
up north.
this should be beautiful ski slopes. So people usually, ski during the day, and in the afternoon they go down to the beach.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane. The elevation is that drastically different.
Oh,
huh?
absolutely.
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
That country does get a lot of snow, and it's a popular destination for ski lovers in the whole of the Middle East. So, geography is fantastic, the landscape, blah, blah. The Lebanese people are good people. They have good culture.
Mm.
We have beautiful women.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
plus. And then good-looking guys too.
Yeah.
For the women out there that are listening, don't be bashful.
Yeah, I was good. Apparently, do all your men have like incredible hairlines too? What the fuck's going on with that?
Well, it depends.
Yeah, that's unfair, dude. Your dad's got a better hairline than I do.
So but more important than all of this is the culture itself. It's the hospitality of the people. They like to have fun. They're entrepreneurs. They believe highly in education. It's a country of diversity in terms of religion. We have 17 different Christian sects, for example.
Oh, wow.
And 3 different Muslim, actually 7 or 8 different Muslim sects, and everybody lives together happy and whatnot. I've gotten used to, I adopted hiking as a sport about 4 years ago in Lebanon. So we go hiking every weekend.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we go from, the north to the south, and we visit all these villages. Some are Christian, some are Muslims, some are Druze, some are Shia, some are whatever, the different.
Oh, wow.
And across the board, everybody shares the same culture, and they don't care who you are and what you are. They're very hospitable. They invite you into their homes.
Wow.
We would be like hiking, and we would be like going through a village, and they would have a wedding. And we end up dancing, dabke with the family and the groom and the bride. And we're like casual hikers wearing hiking clothes and whatnot.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah. And people love that.
Debka is like line dancing, basically.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
So, people are tight, despite everything that had happened. The culture is just beautiful. These are people that all are, full of life, full of fun. And unfortunately, they're, stuck in geopolitical situations with, Iran and Syria and Palestine, Israel, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But that will go one day.
Yeah.
And when that all goes and, they decide to dig up all the oil and gas that we have off the shore of Lebanon will become another Dubai or Abu Dhabi in terms of money.
Yeah.
And then they will take their game to a whole other level. I should mention one more thing. The literacy rate in Lebanon is like 90+%. And Lebanon exports a lot of human resources to the rest of the Arab world. So all the business leaders in the Arab world, and the doctors and the lawyers, a lot of them are Lebanese. And Lebanon was at the forefront of science back in the 50s. They actually had rockets that they were planning to launch to space.
Oh, wow.
And they had successfully launched 6 rockets that flew up like 500 kilometers up into the atmosphere. And then the French government nicely asked the Lebanese government to shut down the program because of geopolitical reasons. We don't want you to be rocket scientists and whatnot. So Lebanon as a country, very well accomplished. The people are highly educated. A lot of them, they end up, working in Europe and North America and so on because they can contribute and add to the system.
Yeah.
So the dream is one of these days, everybody would lay off these people and they can just go about being going back to their status of being what they used to call the Switzerland of the Middle East. It's a very unique spot in that area, and everybody recognizes that. But like anything, you have to deal with the bad people and get them out of your way before you can resume.
Yeah, this is kind of it's maybe a sort of off question, but that huge bombing that happened in Beirut not too long ago.
Yeah.
Weren't you
2019.
I remember it happening, and I remember asking Adam, like, dude, where's your dad?
Actually, it's
No,
funny you should
yeah.
ask, because the previous day I was on that highway like maybe 10 hours earlier, because I have a little beach house up in the north of the country, and I was coming back to my place in Beirut, and I drove on that highway 10 hours earlier. I went home and I packed my stuff and I went
Yeah,
to
you
the airport
flew.
because I was coming to America. And I landed in America and I heard about the explosion.
Yeah, I think I texted you and I called Tata.
Yeah, yeah, that was very unfortunate. Some ignorant people. Um, no one knows what the real story is about that nitrate. Chemical.
It seemed like it was just like a negligence, like they forgot about it, which is just like extremely irresponsible. I was like,
yeah,
Wow.
that's what they say at least.
yeah. But that explosion shook the city. And if it wasn't, we have in the port of Beirut, they have a place where they store all the grain that actually comes from Ukraine, ironically. And that structure that holds all the grain is probably about 30 or 40 meters high, and it's all solid concrete. And good luck as might have it, when the explosion happened, that big concrete brick wall absorbed a lot of that explosion. Otherwise, Beirut would have been completely destroyed.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
They lucked out.
Yeah, actually,
holy crap. That's saying a lot, because that explosion is horrific.
it's literally like one of the biggest explosions of all time.
It is the second largest explosion after Hiroshima, actually.
Is it
crazy?
Really?
It is. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I also, like, Ahmed was gonna go. My friend Ahmed was gonna go to was supposed to go to Lebanon like the day before, and he was gonna stay in a hotel like down the street from where it happened.
Oh, yeah.
And then it didn't work out, and he delayed it a week.
He lucked out.
And then it happened. Yeah. But he was gonna be literally right on that street because it happened kind of close to like downtown, like by the boardwalk. Right? Like, wasn't that?
Yeah, I mean, it's close enough. I mean, the damage from that explosion extended throughout the city, but there's the one section that is really like the Soho type section, popular with young kids, that got completely destroyed.
Wasn't the downtown? That's not a downtown area. Like
no, not the
like
downtown.
Hamra, you mean?
No, Jamaise in back of Ashrafieh. Basically.
Okay, yeah.
But that whole thing, people, fixed everything within 3 months. Everything opened up again.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually extremely impressive. Just considering
a lot of NGOs came in, and the local community pulled together, and they just, because they didn't want their city to look the way it looked.
And that's like kind of what started the whole like revolution, and then that's why like the whole economy thing that happened was literally because of that. Ever since that event, like all this other shit happened.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's sad, but I think Lebanese people are very resilient. They will figure this out. There's no doubt in my mind. But everybody has to do their part. Yeah. I do my part. I went and I started a company, and I educated over 1,000 kids on all this engineering business. And now a lot of them, they get their work from Europe and the United States. And I employ 20 people, and every year I probably have about 50 kids that come and work for me on a contract basis.
Wow.
So if everybody does their part in contributing in a positive way, despite all people that are trying to sabotage things will work out.
Yeah. No, that sounds incredible. You said you started a company. Is this like the one that you currently like work for?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you start that?
So I went down to Lebanon. It was 2009.
Yeah.
So I hooked up with a guy who wanted to do something. I haven't been in Lebanon like forever, for 25 years. Anyhow, I went down to Lebanon, and I had a contract in my hand for a company here. It was $160,000, the contract, actually. Went down 2009. So we did this profession that we are in, which is semiconductors and digital systems, it doesn't exist in Lebanon. So I wrote a 1,200 book page, a 1,200 page book. I mean, and I went and worked as a professor at the Lebanese university, and I had 47 kids in the class. When the semester was over, I hired 8 of them. I started a company, and I augmented that company with some of the people that my ex-business partner used to have, another maybe 4 people. And then in 2 years, we created about $2 million worth of business.
Wow.
And at that point, the value add was attractive enough that one of our customers bought the company. So we became the R&D arm of that company in Lebanon. And then we expanded the team to 20 people. And I started this program with one of the largest universities in Lebanon, where I would conduct this class every semester about digital system design.
Where is this, LAU or
No, this
AUV?
is Kashlik, the Holy
yeah,
Spirit
yeah.
of Kashlik. It belongs to the Maronite Church. But anyhow, it's a big school. But the class is open to everybody in the country. So we used to have students from all schools. So American University of Beirut, Lebanese American University, Balaman, San Joseph, all these different schools. And it was a hit. It was a very good success. We'll have all these kids. We'll run them through a real good. Besides learning all the science and all that, they'll have to execute a project that gives them the hands-on thing. And then a lot of them end up coming to my company doing an internship with me for a year.
Wow.
So that's that. We've been going strong for 12 years.
That's
And,
amazing. That's
yeah.
so cool.
But you started a few companies, right? Like, I mean, I remember like
Yeah,
a long
this is
time ago.
this is the
Company man over here. You can't stop.
the third company
much.
I've done.
Wow.
The company I had before I went to Lebanon I started that in 98 actually. And we developed some pretty nifty technology that powers up the internet actually that you see today. It probably has some of our gear.
Wow.
We were in business for about 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And we were building out the company to go and do an IPO or sell the company at that time. The 90s, a lot of money in telecom. We were setting up the company to sell it for like $1 billion because that was the going rate for those types of companies, those types of technologies. And then we had September 11, unfortunately, and everything went down.
Yeah.
That was the second company. And the first company I did was in the mid 90s. And by the way, that second company eventually got picked up by somebody. Somebody bought it. But we didn't make any money because they bought it for the amount of investment that was put
so
in
you
the
just
company because the market tanked after
broke
September
even.
11.
Okay.
We had probably about $120 million of VC money. So it got sold literally to just pay off the creditors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then the first company, we also had a really good run for about 4 years. And then the competition was too hard for us to keep up. They HP at the time actually almost copied our product and offered it for 50% the cost.
Oh,
So
man.
very
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Oh, yeah. What can you do? Nothing.
Nothing much.
Yeah.
The big fish swallows the small fish. But, it was all good. We generated jobs. Everybody walked away with tons of experience. And by the way, the going rate for startups, because the 90s was the era of startups. And I've never worked for a large company. It's always been startups because, number one, I wanted to go into like a sweatshop type experience because that's where you really learn and establish strong foundations. And maybe it'll work out and you'll make a lot of money. Success rate is 1 out of 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
For every 12 companies, 11 will fail, one will succeed. And the VCs, the people that give you the money, they know that. So what they do, they might invest in the same line of work or the supply chain of that line of work with 10 different companies. If one of them strikes, they make up the difference for the rest of the companies.
Wow.
Yeah. So no other investment is going to give you 500, 600, 700 or 1,000% on your investment within 3 to 4 years. That was the turnaround time.
Wow.
You know, in the 90s, people were spending $900 million for a company. It was a no-brainer. I mean, look at relative to the numbers we're talking about today. You know, Twitter, 44 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you
that's a
see
good
other
point.
deals that are smaller, but people talk about, you know, billions.
Yeah,
you know,
billions.
10 billion
Yeah.
here, 5 billion there, 60. So there's a lot of money to be made in technology. And if you have a creative idea, it doesn't matter what sector of the technology, there's plenty of money to be made. Crypto is an
I
example.
wonder how many people work at Twitter too, you know? I mean, it's a website, right? Like,
See if I can find
Yeah,
it.
but the infrastructure is huge there.
for sure. But I just, how long, because it's been a thing for a while. So, like, how flushed out does it need to be?
7,500 people.
There you go.
Okay.
7,500.
That's a pretty big company. Well, it's
Yeah.
small. It's medium.
It takes, you know, there's the whole world uses Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many subscribers they have, but they'll probably have a few 100 million subscribers. I'm pretty
Probably
sure.
something pretty crazy
Yeah.
like that.
And I just wonder, like, I don't know, like they have servers, right? So unless they rent them from somewhere else or
No, I'm pretty sure they
have their own.
put on that kind of
So-
operation, you know, the security concerns. And
290.5 million users on Twitter.
there you go.
Oh, but
Yeah.
there was a whole like controversy thing though with like
How
when
many are
Elon
bots?
when Elon Musk went to buy it because it was like, oh, well, a lot of the users are just bots. So
Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of people do that.
so that's
I'm
basically
sure.
overvalued, and so like now they were trying to figure out a different price point for it, but
Yeah, he
that's
said
interesting.
something like I forgot what it was, but it was like, yeah, you got to let me know like how many bots are on here. And it put him in a corner. It's like if they don't tell him how many bots there are, then it seems like they're hiding something.
yeah.
But if they do tell him, then it might expose exactly how many bots are actually on the platform, which is kind of crazy to think about.
I don't know. It's almost impossible to know.
How are you gonna know?
I don't
Yeah.
think Twitter itself will like fake these things.
Yeah.
But I do believe that some people will create a lot of fake accounts because of whatever reason. So you'll have the same user with 100 accounts, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That-
true. Yeah.
That I can understand. But a company like Twitter to deliberately create these fake things, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
no,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
them. It's just people make bots. Like people make bot accounts and just have
Yeah.
them do fake tweets, but that's not considered a real user, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why, like, you know, I'm sure it's like for public, like it would affect the stock price if they released
Of
how many
course.
bots were in the.
Of course.
So that's why. But I feel like why don't you just make them sign an NDA and then tell them? You know what I mean? Why is it such a big
why is
deal?
it got to be public? You know what? I do have kind of a fun question for you. What is one technological advancement that's happened since you moved to America that surprised you? Like legitimately surprised you?
Hmm.
You didn't see it coming. You were like, wow, this is the
If-
future.
Well, the internet for sure. I was one of those people that first started using the internet when navigation was like, you know, we had I forgot what the name of the browser now. It was so rudimentary, like the information, the way it's presented, everything is stacked, blah blah blah. And to see it flourish to the way it flourished into is pretty mind-boggling, actually.
Mm, makes sense. It's
So-
funny. It's something that we just take for granted on a daily basis.
Ah.
Was
Like
it just
my little
World Wide
brother.
Web? Was that the first web client?
What is it?
Worldwide.
It was just called World Wide Web.
Well, that's what the internet used to be called, but the browser, I think it was either Netscape and something else.
W3 Netscape. I actually do remember.
Ask Jeeves, the
Oh
first.
my
Yeah.
god, I
internet
remember.
search.
I remember Ask Jeeves too, and I
Me
actually
too.
remember seeing Google for the first time, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
I
Google?
did not like the Google thing when I saw it for the first time. I'm like, that's it? There's a little thing in the middle and you type your stuff?
Like
I mean,
it's
yeah.
too
I
simple.
expected like, you know, something more sophisticated, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Like, But then all these other portals came up, and you go to a portal and it has categories and whatnot. But I'd rather have the simple interface with Google.
Yeah, you just ask it whatever you want. Do you know, like, were you like skeptical about the internet, or like even like when they released the first OS, like Microsoft? You know what I mean? Like Windows.
Yeah, I mean, remember when this first came out, they used to call it the World Wide Web because the latencies were horrendous.
Oh,
because the infrastructure was not all there.
Yeah.
Right. Think about what needs to happen. So access needs to be fast, and then where people get aggregated before they get to the server has to be fast, and then the server has to be fast.
Yeah.
So a lot of things have to come together from a computer science perspective, the data structures and the algorithm, the storage people that design the hard disks and whatnot. These have to be very fast. The microprocessors have to be strong enough to be able to retrieve the data fast enough to give it to the applications to give it to you.
Yeah.
The network that carries the information from the server into your distribution point, and then from the distribution point to make it all the way to your house. I mean, a lot of things have to happen, and they all have to scale. So, for example, right now, the highest transmission link we have today is 400 gigabit per second. Gigabit per second, 400 billion bits per second.
That's insane.
They're updating all the infrastructure at the core to be able to sustain those days. The reason for that is the load on the network is increasing exponentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Because a lot of people are dumping a lot of content. We have many more humans that are interested in multimedia. When 5G kicks in, like really kicks in.
Really rounding out this podcast here.
Yeah. So
Back to 5G.
Back to 5G.
Yeah. So when 5G kicks in, I mean, the load is insane, which places incredible requirements on the server. So those need to be updated because the links, if I am talking to the server at 400G and he cannot respond at 400G, I might as well not implement 400G.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's gonna be a bottleneck.
in 2 years from now, that 400G is going to be a terabit per second. So this is continuing until we get to the point where we can no longer, we'll reach the physical barrier of Moore's law, and we cannot scale things anymore. Then there'll probably be some other technologies that
I
come
wonder
along.
what they do at that point.
This is kind of crazy, but I remember being in high school in an AP bio class, and every week we had to do a little report on something, new technology that was coming out. And one of my reports was on organic microchips made from living organisms. Almost like the way that it was described back then, because this was a big hot movie back then, was the original Avatar. Was like, was a thought that maybe microchips in the future won't be physical and electric in terms of like soldering and metals and all these different things. It'll just be organic matter flowing between it. There's a lot of research that goes in that area. We know how to do these things. The problem is to build them in a cost-effective way. Yeah, it doesn't make sense right
economically, it's all about economics.
Yeah,
right.
And like it has to be alive, which means you have to like feed it almost. And also, it's like I feel like because like a lot of like living organisms like cells are on the scale of like microns, right? It's not. We're looking at like nano scale for chips.
Yeah.
So at least with respect to, I mean, you can store a lot of information in something like that. I think they actually have like every piece of like information in human history on like a little piece of DNA in like a little vial.
Yeah.
Because you can literally just like sequence the DNA and it's coded, right? It's basically an encoded of it's basically everything on the internet just encoded into a piece of DNA.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can you have to destroy it to read it, but you can lyse it and read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts to think about. So it does make you wonder that like if in some weird future the infrastructure makes sense such that we almost make a giant CNS system, like central nervous system, but for like connecting the world.
There's absolutely no reason why it cannot go there.
Yeah.
Okay. If there is enough advancement in artificial intelligence and knowing how the human brain interconnections actually work and these things are created and destroyed. There's no reason why you can't emulate these things. As a matter of fact, with the technology that we have today, silicon is probably 1,000 times stronger than your neurons that are in your brain.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why.
Well, it is. Computing power wise, we have the horsepower, but it's not as efficient as storing and retrieving information.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that process maybe is understood at a different level. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. That we should wait and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
The future.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to cut it right now.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that was great, man. It was really. The funny thing is like I don't want to cut it. Like I feel like I could talk to you forever about this shit.
That was good.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I was it's funny every time we have someone on, it's like, oh, plug your stuff, but I guess there's really like I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's just my dad.
He's just your really intelligent father. So that's just.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and okay, sweet.
All right,
nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pops.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks so much for listening to Bone Apple Tea. If you like the show, please give us a follow, like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is. Tell your friends about it. And make sure to follow us on Instagram. That's Bone Apple TV, BoneAppleTeaV on Instagram. Thanks so much.